Hi, this is Mr. Aaron. So glad to be joining you here at Clubhouse in the internet. Hey, this is kind of weird for me in two ways. Number one, well, this is a video, and I'm not in front of you doing the lesson like I have been doing cross trainers and a girls' club. But number two, this is a different curriculum than what we've been doing. This is actually, we're trying out something new. So bear with me, and let's dive into the lesson. So they've been talking about in these lessons the Sermon on the Mount, which is a time that Jesus basically came up, and a lot of people gathered around him, and he preached to them for a long time. And there's a lot of incredible lessons on there, a lot of stories that you might know from hearing things in the Bible. And so I want to show you, though, two quick videos before we get into that. They're very short, so watch very carefully.
Hi. Oh. Whoa!
What do you think the problem was with these houses? They fell because the ground underneath them gave way. When a flood came, the ground washed the floor out from under them. Have you ever been to the beach? Have you ever stood barefoot in the sand right at the edge of the water, especially at the ocean when the tide is coming in? But you can even see it on some of the bigger waves on our lakes around here. And standing barefoot, and if you stand very still, when the water goes back out, you can feel the sand moving out from underneath your feet. So that's what happened with those houses. It's fun when you do it on the beach. It's not really fun when a real house comes crumbling down. What we call the surface, the ground or the base that a building sits on, its foundation. And any builder will tell you that a building is only as strong as the foundation it sits on. The houses in the videos fell because their foundation was made of mush. And now it didn't look like mush when they built the houses. It was dry, it looked sort of solid, but if the builders had checked it out better, they would have realized it was on weak dirt or sand. The strongest ground that we could ever build on is rock. But in most places where people want to build a house or a building, the ground isn't made of rock. It's made of dirt. So the builders have to make their own foundation that's as close to rock as they can make it. Anybody know what they use? It's concrete. Yeah, it's not cement. Cement is the material that binds gravel together to form concrete. Concrete's the rock stuff that's hardened after you do that. So let's say I want to build a house, a nice piece of land, and the builder uses big bulldozers to clear out the spot and a compactor to pack down the soil as hard as they can make it, and the workers will lay down steel rods all across the area in like a grid. And then they pour wet concrete all over the area and they smooth it all out. Then the concrete dries and it becomes extremely hard. And the steel bars inside the concrete help it to stay strong. Now, once the foundation is finished, then they can build a house that will stand for hundreds of years. Do you think that builders are careful to build a strong foundation when they build a huge building? Not just somebody's house, but like a skyscraper? A skyscraper? Yeah, skyscrapers cost millions or even billions of dollars, and they would be like deadly if they fell. The builders want to build buildings that can stand the rain and high winds and typhoons and earthquakes and anything that you could throw at them. I'm going to show you a picture here of the Petronas Towers in Malaysia. They started building these towers about 15 years ago. And the towers were going to be 88 stories tall, and that part of the world has some terrible earthquakes. So the builders used concrete that was twice as strong as any concrete they'd ever used before in their country. The foundation, that first layer, is 15 feet thick. That's like as tall as 3 of me thick. The foundation under each tower weighs over 32,000 tons. It took a full year just to build that foundation alone. And those buildings have stood through many storms and earthquakes and earthquake tremors. That is some strong concrete. but rock is even stronger. Some rocks are 5 times stronger than any concrete. Has anybody ever been to Stone Mountain? If you climb to the top of the mountain and go into the visitor center, just imagine what a perfect foundation, a mountain of rock, a literal mountain of rock would be for that building that's sitting on top of it. That building will stand during a storm, an earthquake, a flood. It's not going anywhere because it is on the solid rock. Let's see what Jesus says about building on rock. Just like Jesus so often does, he's going to give us a word picture of something we can see to explain something that we can't see. So this is from Matthew, the book of Matthew 7:24 through 27. So then everyone who hears my words and puts them into practice is like a wise man. He builds his house on the rock. The rain comes down, the waters rises, the winds blow and beat against that house, but it does not fall. It is built on the rock. But everyone who hears my words and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man. He builds his house on sand. The rain comes down, the water rises, the winds blow and beat against that house, and it falls with a loud crash. Jesus is making a big comparison. He is saying our life is like that house, and he is like the rock. When we hear what Jesus says and do what he says, we are building our lives on him. So hear and do. Hear and do. Jesus is the absolute most solid foundation that there is. And the Bible calls Jesus the cornerstone in Acts 4:11. Just like a solid rock, Jesus is strong and he never changes. He is the same yesterday and today and forever. Jesus knows absolutely everything. He knows everything in the past, everything in the future. He's all powerful. And what's more, he is completely good and kind. He wants the very best for us. Everything that Jesus tells us to do is right. And when we listen to him and obey him, we are building one solid board on top of another. And when we are standing on solid ground, that is amazing. But so, you know what? Some people don't choose to build their life on Jesus' word. They do what seems right to them. They get advice from their friends, or maybe even from someone on TV, or somebody who you read on the internet, and you just do whatever they say. Is anyone in the universe as wise as Jesus? No. Jesus is immeasurably smarter than all of us humans put together. Unlike Jesus, people change, and our feelings and our ideas change. So trusting in anyone or anything other than Jesus is like building a house on sand that will move and crumble apart. So the funny thing is, on a sunny day, both houses, the one built on the rock and the one built on sand, they will both stand just fine. On a beautiful sunny day, those will be perfectly fine houses. But when a storm comes, that's another story. Now, in the parable that Jesus told, which house had a storm come to it? Was it just the house that was built on the sand that the storm showed up at? No, it was both houses. As long as we are living here on this planet Earth, where there is a kingdom of darkness as well as a kingdom of God, we will have troubles and temptations. Even if we are in God's kingdom, we will still face some difficult things. Jesus compares our difficult times to storms. The storms are different for everyone. Some of these storms might be troubles like sicknesses or this whole crazy COVID-19 pandemic situation that we're in and having to do school at home and not being able to see your friends. And it might be getting injured or having a parent lose a job or being lied to or having a friend turn their back on you or feeling bad about your grades. All of those are really tough situations. Or we could be tempted. The devil prowls around like a hungry lion, trying to trap people into sin, just like he did to Adam and Eve. He might tempt you to gossip or to cheat or to lie. Sin always ruins things. Jesus said that the house that's built on sand, which is like those who don't follow Jesus, will fall with a loud crash. That means when troubles come, they will be crushed in their spirit. They will feel all alone and hopeless and unloved. And when they are tempted to sin, they'll believe Satan's lie that sin is no big deal, and they'll sin. But you know what? Sin has terrible consequences. It separates us from other people, and it separates us from God. But the house that is built on the rock, so the people who hear and obey Jesus, that house will not fall. When those same storms come, the person will not be ruined. When troubles come, they will stand on God's promises. For example, if your parents argue, or if a friend is mean to you, you won't be crushed in your heart. God promises that He will be with you, so you know you're not alone. He tells you that you are loved, and that He even sings over you. That's right, in Zephaniah. I don't know how many of you have ever heard of that book. That's an actual real book in the Bible. The book of Zephaniah 3:17 says that God sings over you. You'll believe God's promise that He can turn every bad situation into a time that strengthens you and blesses you. And when Satan tempts you to sin, you can hear God's truth over Satan's lies so you don't fall into Satan's trap. Jesus said that if we want to stand firm through the storms, hear Him and do what He says. Hear and do. So how do we hear Jesus? This is whenever you take in Jesus' truth. You're hearing right now by watching this video, by coming to Clubhouse when we are able to do that. You hear when you read the Bible or when your parents read the Bible to you. You hear when you memorize verses. You hear Jesus when you pray and ask Jesus for guidance and for Him to tell you what you should be doing. Hearing is great, but it's just the first part. If you stop at hearing, your life won't be built on the rock. If you hear and walk away without doing it, that's like looking at a wonderful rock formation to build a house on and then taking your bricks and building somewhere else. You may know that the rock is solid, but you're not building your house there. The next part is doing. After hearing comes doing. So doing what Jesus says to do. This is the putting Jesus in control of your life that we talked about in the last lesson. Do you trust that His ways are right? Do you know that Jesus is good? Do you know that Jesus is God? If you truly believe in Him, you will do what He says for you to do. James 4:17 says, "So when you know the good things you should do and don't do them, you sin." You know what? You're the only one that can choose to do this part. In a way, your parents can make sure that you hear Jesus' words. They can read the Bible to you. They can bring you to Clubhouse where we'll teach you the best of our ability. But no one can make you do it. That part is completely up to you. It's up to you to say no to doing things your way and yes to doing things Jesus' way. But the super cool part is that when you choose to do what Jesus asks, He'll give you the power and the strength to do it. That's amazing. Jumping back to the Bible right now, Matthew 7:28 and 29 says, Jesus finished saying all these things. The crowds were amazed at His teaching. He taught like one who had authority. He did not speak like their teachers of the law. So that was the end of the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus said that He had taught them many incredible things, truth straight from His heavenly Father. They were amazed at what He said and how He said it. They had all heard. Now, how many would go out and do it? Thanks for joining me. Look forward to seeing you again soon.